for that from the heart message. And to all of you and family and friends, congratulations for sure. Our next award recognizes professional achievement through ethical leadership in service. This year's Leadership Excellence Award recipient is 2011 alumna Shelley Bobb. Shelley is a people person. And one of the most warm and great sense of humor persons I've met. Her passion for being present to and working with people has made her a successful and well-respected Lutheran pastor for more than 25 years. Shelley has transitioned her career and now utilizes her dispute resolution degree on a full-time basis as president of SJB Media and Consulting. In this role, Shelley works primarily with hospital and clinical teams, striving to better and improve their work, addressing all the kinds of challenges that we can only imagine that come their way. Hard work. In addition to her professional work, Shelley is also dedicated to community service work. She has served as vice president of a shelter for victims of domestic violence, volunteered with a therapeutic horseback riding academy. I'd like to hear more about that. And has worked with the homeless. True outcomes of our Marquette mission and values. Today, Shelley balances her business with being a graduate student here at Marquette University. She is working on an interdisciplinary doctorate focused on healthcare and organizational development, along with presenting her research at national and international healthcare conferences. I know from personal experience the depth and breadth and the excellence of Shelley's academic work and research. One of her papers that she delivered, I believe, internationally and was published. Antwerp, okay. It was in Antwerp. Focused on the work of the philosopher Jürgen Habermas and dispute resolution. It was so gripping, she gave it to me to read. It was so gripping that I brought it to our former provost, John Pauley, who's a professor in communication. And the two of us discussed your paper at length. It was awesome.
I have copies.
Yeah. Let me explain to you. When asked how she would define success, Shelley responded, "I think success is defined as being able to use your gifts and honing those gifts in a way that can create something new and tips the scale on this brave little planet." It seems to me, Shelley, that you are doing just that with your life. She even congratulated me on being the only dean who has a red Vespa around the city. She said, "My dean has a Vespa." In any case, we are so pleased. Everyone, please join me in congratulating Shelley.
Thank you, Dean Deal. My nickname for Bob is the Good Shepherd. He has helped me through many things, and Father Class, and also even Chris. Where are you? Did you leave? Oh, thank you, too, for being good shepherds to me when I was in the program. And Sherry Walker, thank you. I also want to thank Dr. Felice Lee, who graciously gave me the okay to miss a leadership class that I'm taking at the business school that meets tonight, so I could receive the leadership award. Thank you, Dr. Lee. In the Lutheran culture in which I was raised, it was considered charming to tell entertaining stories about relatives, and we have many, or a cow that got loose on my grandparents' farm and pulled up as we washed off the line, ran through the garden, and then knocked down the corn. Telling stories about other people was great, but not so much about talking about yourself. Prolonged self-revelation seems discourteous to me, and self-aggrandizing is just vulgar. We just didn't brag on ourselves much. So I have to be here tonight. I wanted to send someone else, but it didn't work out. So keeping this in mind and thinking about leadership, I can drill down to one thing I want to say to you tonight. It's not about you. I can think of no more salutary words to say to you about leadership. It's not about you. For a lot of people, leaders have to be huge in personality, speech, and deed. In movies, people do this, leaders, by shouting a lot, with death-defying adventures, and they have torrid, risky affairs. I raise my voice sometimes, but I don't like screaming at people. I don't like fast or high rides, even at the county fair. And although I dream of a torrid affair, I'm speaking from my heart now, Jim. It just never happens, man. I mean, it never happens. In business, lousy leadership was called by one scholar I read about in my wonderful leadership class with Dr. Lee, who was a level 1 leader. They order, command, threaten, intimidate, coerce. They ignore what people think and believe. I think the best way to become a leader is to remember that it's not about you. As uninspiring as that might seem, leadership is doing your best work, using your gifts, and doing it not for yourself or getting some bucks to go on a fancy vacation, but doing it for the sake of the other. For some, that might mean going to Rwanda and helping out with that wonderful reconciliation project that's going on now between the tribes after the horrific atrocities that happened 20 years ago. But for others, and most likely most of us, it might mean staying home and doing our work in places like Milwaukee or Wauwatosa or Elkhorn, Wisconsin, where I spent the first 12 years of my life milking cows twice a day, every year, and working in town, and being good members in a community and a good neighbor, speaking up for things that are important on a daily basis, giving help when it's needed, and extending yourself for someone else. For this is where leadership takes place, in that gentle balance of doing your absolute best work and serving things and people who are bigger than yourself. It's not about you. I have 2 pictures that hang in my garage next to the garage door opener that I put there. One is by the late 16th century painter Peter Bruegel, and it's called Census at Bethlehem. It's got warm earth tones, people milling about a peasant village in the winter, people carrying sacks of stuff on their backs, kids playing stickball on the ice, chickens walking around. And in the midst of it is a donkey, who is carrying a woman in a blue shawl, and a man leading them to get in line for the census. It's Mary and Joseph. Jesus gets born, you see, in the midst of all that, in the midst of life. I haven't met a garage door opener, so when I hit the garage door opener, I can think about that when I go out. To the grocery store, to school, to my work, Jesus is in the midst of it all. And I like abiding in that story. If you're not a person of the Christian faith, you might still know the story. And at times, Jesus seems so powerless and not like a leader. There's a phrase, a great phrase in Scripture that says, "He will not shout out or let his voice be heard in the street." But I sure like the way he leads, usually in the midst of ordinary life. The other picture in my garage is with my mom's dad, my grandfather. It's an 8.5 by 11 black and white photo of him wearing an old denim pair of jeans and an old denim shirt and a ridiculous-looking old hat, squatting in the middle of his garden with these huge pumpkins He and my grandma knew how to grow big things. They had 13 children. Although my grandparents didn't have much in the way of material goods, they were known in their little town for being giving people who thought of others. And during the Great Depression, that is a darn good model. When I was growing up, I heard these stories over and over again from my aunts and uncles about their parents' thoughtfulness to people. In this picture of my grandpa and the pumpkins, Grandpa looks kind of proud and happy, but mostly he looks completely at home in the pumpkin field. That's the part of the picture I actually like the best. He knew who he was, and he was at home with that. And when you're at home with yourself, no matter where you are or who you are, and you really know yourself, and you're happy with that, you can extend yourself in a real way to other people, in a loving way. I don't ever want to forget that. So he hangs by the garage door opener. I don't want to have the power or be a leader like Goliath. I don't want to have an armor on me of any kind to keep people or things out. I don't want to be scary as a leader. I don't want to scream or shout. I don't want or need to be the center of attention in a room. I don't want to threaten people in any way to get what I think might be right. I don't want to be a bully. I want a power that no one can take from me. And when I lose sight of that power, if you are a leader, most of us do lose sight of that for sometimes a season, when we get drawn into thinking that we are the greatest, or we can rise above the rules, or treat other people like objects, just even a little. We've lost sight of ourselves and who we are and our best selves, and then whoosh, we start to think only of ourselves. And remember, it's not about you. To all those who love me now, my balcony people, I call them, my loving cheerleaders, some of whom are here tonight, and those dear ones who love me even though they're dead, I still hear their voices, and taught me to think about the world and serving others, and that it's not all about me. Especially my mom and dad, who are the best teachers of loving I know. Thank you. And thanks to Marquette University, whose tagline seems to have more than a clue about loving others. It's another way of saying it's not about you, and they put it right out there on their website, front and center. Be the difference. Thank you.